スト翻訳始まるよ。皆さんこんにちは、Hana です。今日はメダリスト第10話を見ています。楽しみですね。先週の質問は、私が何体の炭治郎フィギュアを持っていると思いますか？答えは、25体です。恥ずかしいですね。炭治郎は私の好きなアニメキャラクターですから、たくさん炭治郎フィギュアがいます。今週の質問は、コメントにあります。皆さんいつも見てくれてありがとうございました。グッドボタンとチャンネル登録よろしくお願いします。I'm not gonna lie, I get excited every time I see Hikaru-chan in the thumbnail because I want to know more of her as a character for sure. Oh, it's been a year? Did we just have like a massive... We had a massive time jump. Oh, okay. We're doing flying camp... I understand time jumps happen. This... We're doing double-double combos. We're doing double-double-double sequences? Okay. This was... Okay. That was... sudden. Level 5. Wow. Okay, I'm already pausing. So we have a 1-year time skip right now, which I'm totally fine with. You know, I, as a figure skater, want to see more of that developmental stage, but I also understand that this is an anime after all, and not everyone who's watching it is a figure skater, and they have to come up with a way to keep the audience engaged. And it is a great way to make her, you know, improve a lot without having to spend a lot of time on training arcs, which people don't tend to love. I don't even love training arcs, but... I would like a training arc in a figure skating anime because then I relate. But anyway, I don't mind the time skip. And also, if she's doing a double flip, double toe, double loop combo, a year after her having a double sow and a double loop in her program and doing well at that, that's pretty realistic for someone who's as talented as she is. It's a little fast, but I'm not against it. So I'm okay with this. I know I've talked a lot about the speed that we're progressing in this show. So far, this one actually feels like, well, it's shocking. I'm like, okay, we just skipped over a year. And that feels just whiplash from a story perspective almost. I don't mind this development. She seems to be in the right spot. She's tested up about 4 levels in a year, which is fast, but we've established that she's very talented. She improves very quickly. I'm rambling already. Oh, this is gonna be a long video. Oh, she's getting close to Hikaru's level. So are we already gonna be competing against each other? Oh, that guy. So that was his dad in the last episode then, and maybe he was saying piece of crap about him. Maybe. I'm just throwing thoughts out. Dang. Okay then. Got some interesting story developments happening here. I don't like that they're calling the jump sequence a triple combo in the subtitles. That'll confuse people. There has to be a way to translate that better. A jump with 3 rotations in the air is a triple. A jump with 3 jump. A combination with 3 jumps in it is called a jump sequence or a 3-jump combo, not a triple jump. A triple jump combo is a combo that has a triple jump in it. If that makes any sense. Ugh. I'm being very picky again. Oh, we're working on double axel. Okay. I mean, yeah. I really want them to... I want them to take their time on her learning this, though. Double axel, I never landed. It's a hard jump. Yeah! Like, you can use this to understand the difference between axel from the other jumps. It takes off forward, that's why there's an extra half rotation at the end, because you cannot land a jump forward. You have to land backwards. A lot of it is mental. It's very difficult, but it's almost not as difficult as we make it out to be. Now you gotta be as straight in the air as possible and as aerodynamic by squeezing in as tight as you can. She's working very hard. Okay, that is his father. Me. I would act that way if an Olympic medalist was like, let's have lunch. What is up with this guy? Okay, random thought. So he's saying that all the skaters at his rink are all seniors, so he wants to move him for motivation purposes, which is interesting because normally being surrounded by skaters higher level than you is bigger motivation than being surrounded by skaters at the same level or lower than you. That is something that I think is very different in like where I live compared to somewhere like Los Angeles where, you know, you had world champions, Olympians training there. The motivation to be way better because you're surrounded by people who are better than you is insane. And then you go back home and you're sometimes the best one on the freestyle session and the motivation leaves you because you're just surrounded by no one who's like pushing you. I don't know. That just confused me. Anyway. That is a pretty good resume. This is an interesting turn of events. Yeah. I relate to him so much right now. If Ashley Wagner, like, showed up and wanted to have me coach her daughter, I'd be like... I might just keel over. Pass out a little bit. This will be an interesting dynamic, that's for sure. He's completely different around him. Wow. The change. So, I think, again, motivation just isn't the right word. He just needed to have friends with him that keeps him happy and wants to skate. Dang! Hardcore. Double axel. He's holding that landing to show off. Yeah, so he's stuck because he can't land that. You gotta soften up to her. Those are two very different ways. So this is a good time to bring up the fact that there are multiple different kinds of techniques for jumps, and that doesn't necessarily mean that jumping higher rather than longer is better than jumping longer than higher. If that did that sentence just make sense? So what I mean to say is there are some skaters that their technique is to get a lot of height, and so because they have so much height, they have a lot more room to rotate. They can rotate a little bit slower. There's some skaters that don't get a lot of height but cover a lot more distance, so they still have that time, but it's not as high as a skater that jumps high. And then there's the skaters that really don't do either. They jump small, they don't cover a ton of length, they spin fast. Now, that's the one that can sometimes be perceived as the wrong technique, because normally if you are a child and you're not jumping high, you're just spinning very fast, that's the technique that's going to fail you the fastest when your body changes as you grow, because you're reliant on how small you are and how fast you can spin, but as your body changes, that can change. So a lot of times we see those skaters. A skater that I can think of was Yulia Lipnitskaya from Russia. She had a technique where she was much more of a small jumper, but she rotated super fast. So she was landing them just fine. And then the moment she started to grow just a little bit, she was never heard from again. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. It's not just the fact that her technique failed her. Yes, that is one of the things that failed her, but we could get into a lot more in-depth conversation about the way those skaters are treated over there, but I'm not gonna dive into that today. But a lot of the skaters that have that technique when they're like 14, 15, and you see them pop onto the scene and they're just like winning everything because they can just do it, they only have 1 or 2 years of their career before they start to grow, and then all of a sudden they're nowhere to be heard because they can't land a triple jump anymore. So the small jumps where you don't get a lot of distance and you don't get a lot of height, it's not necessarily wrong, and it won't always fail you as you grow, but that one's the most likely. The distance ones and the height ones are more likely to last you your entire career, because even as your body changes, let's say that you can't spin as fast, you already know how to get that height so that you can change the speed of rotation. You're still going to be able to get around. So there's different kinds of technique, and it usually has to do with the skater's fundamentals. It usually has to do with the skater's just like natural way of doing things, and you have to kind of learn that as they start out. But normally the distance or the height is the best way to do it. The small jumpers with quick rotation, while like I said, it doesn't always mean a bad thing, that's the one that percentage-wise tends to be the one that they end up struggling the most. So there's multiple different ways of having technique, and one coach will sometimes teach different technique to each skater, again, because each skater is a little bit different how their body moves and that sort of thing. Is he too positive for him, or is he like, oh, I like that? This might be too positive for him. Oh. Oh. Oh, that's actually... Remember when I was saying that Tsukasa's a good coach because he has a good mix? Most skaters, there's a time and place for being tough on them, and there's a time and place for being nice to them, but a lot of coaches heavily lean one way over the other, and that can cause something like this. So she can learn by just watching someone do the thing, which is not something many people can do, including me. Come on, dude. This is an interesting conversation to have. So I'm trying to think how I want to word this. This is why I wanted to pause it, because I wanted to think on it for a minute. But so first of all, he's saying that Tsukasa essentially isn't a good coach because, oh, if you're a good coach and you're coaching me how to do a double axel, then prove you can do a double axel. Well, that's a very flawed way of thinking, because I mentioned this before, normally a coach that did ice dance won't be the best freestyle coach, and freestyle is jumps and spins and that sort of thing, because ice dancers don't jump. However, there are exceptions, and Tsukasa did do freestyle skating. It's not like he was an ice dancer the entire time. It's also important to note that when someone is coaching, them being able to do the jumps for you, to show you, is very, very rare, because most coaches are retired skaters who aren't like Yuzuru Hanyu. Who still, you know, a lot of people corrected me on that video and said he's not retired, he's just retired from competitive skating. Most of the time when someone retires from competitive skating, they retire from skating. And if they coach, they're not going to go out there and jump. Many times a coach could once do a triple jump, but now they can only do a single axel, right? Because it is muscle memory, but it's also very dangerous to take a bunch of time off and then just go out and throw a jump that's really difficult out there that you haven't done in a while. Like for me, I'm getting back into skating, right? It's been 6 years since I've jumped anything above a single axel. So you best believe that I'm not going to go out there and I'm just going to do a single axel. I could hurt myself, right? I'm going to ease back into it, and I'll probably be able to land it pretty quickly because it's a jump that I've had since I was like 10 years old. But I'm going really deep here. You can't just assume your coach's worth based off of the things that they currently can do. And Rio is very young and he doesn't know that, right? And he's been very much brought up in my opinion, based off what I'm seeing, a little bit of a toxic environment. Not necessarily from his dad, but from just like the way he sees things, the way he just was like, oh, this guy's complimenting me, but I can't take it. I can't do that. It's clear that he's been brought up in an environment where it's all harsh coaching and no kindness. And that can be very detrimental to a skater, especially if they're a skater that needs those compliments sometimes. That might be just what he needs. Rio's speaking very much on a lot of toxicity that he's grown up in my opinion. I haven't seen a ton about what he's been going through, but just based off of his reaction to things, I would say, and this coach that is coaching Hikaru, as beautiful as he is, he seems like a really stand-up guy. Not. That's sarcasm. So anyway, the talk of switching coaches is a very common conversation within skating, but it's usually brought on by parents, and it's usually only brought on when a skater literally just stops improving, like what Rio is doing. He's switching coaches because he hasn't been improving. So that's like, that can be a sign that maybe you need to try something new. Inori is improving, and she is getting better and better. So I hope, I sometimes when I pause and I just talk about things, I'm like, I really hope this makes sense, because a lot of what I'm speaking to is just second nature to me, and I sometimes forget that it's not second nature to all of you. So if you want me to explain that better, let me know in the comments. But essentially, these conversations do happen. Kids don't know what they're talking about half the time. Skating is very complicated all the way through. Coaches don't have to prove that they can teach something by doing something. You don't have to have the ability yourself to know how to teach it, and vice versa. Some people have the ability themselves but don't know how to teach it. It's all in the person and who they are. So we're gonna get back into it. She's flaming up like Kokoro Moyase. Because she has someone to believe in her. You haven't had someone to believe in you. That's why you're so against what she's saying. Yeah, he was not raised in a good environment. It can do a lot to a skater's mind if you start that at a young age. She was defending you. A lot of skaters will force their children into skating. There is normally a pretty natural talent that kids of skaters have, but I never want to force my future kids into skating if they don't want to. I'll let them, I'll put them on the ice, I'll enroll them in a class, see if they like it, but if they're like, I don't want to do this, I'm never going to make them do it. Partially because it's expensive. It's so expensive. Yeah, you gotta be careful. You are. He's right. She's progressing at a faster speed than normal. I don't think she understands either. She's talking about competing at a level that takes some skaters 10 years of skating to get to. And she has this idea in her head, because it's Hikaru, who is a genius, who is very talented, and probably more talented than Inori. I have a hair on my face and it's annoying me. She is somewhat setting herself up with unrealistic goals because of that, because she sees what Hikaru does. But we also don't know how long Hikaru has been skating. I don't think they've specified that. I get the feeling that she moved very quickly through the ranks, but Hikaru's 1 in a million. Inori is chasing someone who's 1 in a million, and that's unrealistic to do, whether you're talented or not, and she's moving much faster than an average skater. Like I said, I never landed a double axel. How long did I say I've been skating? 20 years. Yes, I was trying double axels when I was 16, 17. I had been skating for 10 years at that point in time, but still 10 years. And many of my friends also never landed double axels, or when they did, they've been skating for 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And I think what Tsukasa is trying to show her right now is how unrealistic that is. Hikaru Hikaru is a great person to look up to, but I also feel like she needs to like come down to earth a little bit and understand that you don't need to move faster because you're already moving very fast. Getting to Japan Nationals is something that many skaters never get to do, or it takes them years and years. So we're already moving fast. I like that he's trying to slow her down a little bit and be like, you're already moving fast. I know you're chasing Hikaru, but you need to chill out a little bit. That would be like me saying right now, oh, I'm gonna chase Ashley Wagner. Obviously, Ashley Wagner isn't competing anymore, but it would be like some kind of crazy, like she was way better than me at all times, and just being like, I'm gonna beat her in competition. And it's like, no, that's not gonna happen. You need to come down to earth a little bit more. Figure skating is such a developmental sport. It is very, very difficult to move through it quick, no matter how much practice you put into it. There's so many different parts to skating. It's not just going out and learning how to run faster. Don't make me cry again. It's very different to do it off the ice, though. Don't tell me they're gonna just throw her on the ice now and say she landed it. I also could land a double axel off the ice. Like, very different. She's capable. That was already the end? That felt like it was 5 minutes long. That was Medalist episode 10. I feel like I kind of talked through, so this was definitely an in-between episode, so there's not a ton to like actually break down. I more just paused a lot to give my just honest thoughts on what was happening, so I hope y'all liked that. But I am kind of interested to see what happens next with Inori, just because while I'm like happy that Tsukasa's like, oh, like let's go for it, I do still think that, I don't know. I'm trying to not be too picky, but it's moving a little bit fast, and I understand the point of the story, I understand where we're going, and I understand that Tsukasa is the coach that is very supportive of his skaters, and it's in direct contrast to what Rio is dealing with, and that's good. But coaches also have a duty to believe in their skater, but to keep them in the world of realism. But I think what's happening here is, in reality, for Inori, her competing on the same ice as Hikaru, as of right now, is still reality, because she is improving at a very rapid rate, and she has been improving at a very rapid rate. And that's so, like, deeply, deeply critical of me as a figure skater. I'm very well aware that there are many skaters out there who are very talented like Inori and move through very quickly, but the percentage of skaters is very low, comparatively. So it's not that I'm, like, annoyed because, oh, it's not showing what my life was like. You know, it's more of a Inori story, while beautiful, and they're very good at making sure the jumps are realistic and that sort of thing. Her story as a whole feels slightly unrealistic to me because it's moving so quick. Anyway, I want to make it very clear, I'm loving this show. I feel like this episode I complained a lot, but I didn't mean to be like super complainy.
それでは今日出てきた英単語を振り返ってみましょう。
Centrifugal。
この単語は遠心力や中心から外へ向かう力に関するものを指します。特に科学や物理の分野でよく使われ、回転運動によって物体が外へ押し出される現象を説明する際に使われます。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
The centrifugal force pushes objects away from the center when they spin.
遠心力は物体が回転するときに中心から外へ押し出す力を生み出す。
A centrifuge separates substances using centrifugal force.
遠心分離器は遠心力を使って物質を分離する。今回はアニメ本編では遠心力の話がありましたね。コーヒーカップで例えるのか、あるいは加藤茶と志村けんのヒゲダンス水入りバケツブンブンで例えるのかで、ある程度年代がわかるんですよね。
Velocity。
この単語は物理学的な速度やフェーズを指します。特に速度の方向性も含めて表現する場合に使われます。スポーツや交通、科学の分野でよく登場します。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
The car reached a velocity of 120 km per hour on the highway.
その車は高速道路で時速20キロに達した。
In physics, velocity includes both speed and direction.
物理学では速度は速さだけでなく方向も含む。遠心力は速度が鍵になるので、フィギュアスケートにも速度が重要になる場面があるということなのかな。速さを求めるタイプと力強さを求めるタイプがいるっていう展開は少年漫画の王道ですよね。
Transfer.
この単語は物や人、データなどを移動する、転送する、移すことを意味します。職場や学校の移動、データの転送、財産の移譲など多くの場面で使われます。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
She transferred to a new school last month.
彼女は先月新しい学校に転校した。
Please transfer the files to my computer.
そのファイルを私のパソコンに転送してください。あの生意気な金髪のガキは、あろうことかりのりちゃんと同じクラブに転入してきましたね。生意気とはいえ、なぜあのように性格がひん曲がってしまったのか、もう少し情報がないと対処も難しいと思います。
Old fart.
この表現は、スラングで年寄りや古臭い考えの人を指します。少し侮蔑的な表現で、特に時代遅れな意見を持っている人や、頑固な高齢者に対して使われることが多いです。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
My grandpa always complains about technology. He's such an old fart.
うちの祖父はいつもテクノロジーに文句を言っている。本当に古臭い考えの人だ。
Don't be an old fart. Try something new for once.
年寄りみたいなこと言わないで。たまには新しいことに挑戦してみなよ。あの金髪のガキがよだか純のことをジジイとか呼んでたと思いますが、英語の大訳としてこの単語が使われていました。日本語でも英語でも、人のことをそんな風に呼んじゃいけないってのは言うまでもないですね。
Rude.
この単語は、言動や態度が失礼である、無礼であることを意味します。他人を不快にさせる振る舞いや、マナーに反する行為を表す際に使われます。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
It's rude to interrupt someone while they're speaking.
誰かが話している時に遮るのは失礼だ。
He made a rude comment that upset everyone.
彼はみんなを怒らせるような無礼な発言をした。まさにあの金髪のガキは、失礼という以外にありませんでしたね。実際にあれだけ露骨に態度も口も悪かったら、現実では保護者も交えて面談、場合によっては大会もあり得ると私は思いますけど。
Flourish.
この単語は植物やビジネス、才能などが繁栄する、成功する、発展することを意味します。良い環境や努力によって物事が順調に進むときに使われます。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
The company flourished after launching its new product.
その会社は新製品を発売したと成功した。
With the right care, the plants will flourish in your garden.
適切な手入れをすれば、その植物は庭でよく育つ。ようやくアニメ本編でもはっきりと明言されましたが、やっぱりいのりちゃんの成長スピードは凄まじすぎるようでしたね。というか、今回いきなり1年も時間が飛んで、そっちもちょっとびっくりしました。
Flexible.
この単語は、物理的に柔軟であることや、考え方やスケジュールが融通が利くことを意味します。適応力が高い人や、調整が可能な状況を表す際に使われます。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
She has a flexible schedule, so she can meet anytime.
彼女はスケジュールが柔軟なので、いつでも会える。
This material is very flexible and can be bent easily.
この素材はとても柔軟で簡単に曲げることができる。フィギュアスケートは理由までもなく柔軟性が大事ですね。私も空手をやっていて、 柔軟運動を何年もやっていますがなかなか股割りができません。誰かいいアドバイスがあればぜひお願いします。
Commitment.
この単語は特定の活動や人、目標に対する約束や献身、責任を意味します。長期的に何かに取り組む姿勢や誓いを立てる場面で使われます。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
Marriage requires love and commitment.
結婚には愛と責任が必要だ。
His commitment to the project impressed everyone.
彼のプロジェクトへの献身はみんなを感動させた。いのりちゃんもあの生意気なガキも献身的にスケートと向き合ったからこそ2回転ジャンプなどの難しい技もできるんですよね。結局、何事も努力しないといけないってことです。